Hi, I'm Melissa. Welcome to Wed and Worth It. We're going to have transparent conversations around budgets and walk through the emotional journey that is wedding planning. We're going to discuss the value of investing in meaningful moments and the joy that comes from creating an experience for yourselves and your loved ones. We talk to newly married couples to find out, was it worth it? Hi, Lily. It's so good to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I want you to just start off by telling me about you and your husband and how you all met, and we'll go from there.
All right, perfect. So my name is Lily Connaughton, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. My husband's Tyler, and we both moved here about 2 years ago now. So we've been here for a full 2 summers in Phoenix, Arizona.
Nice and toasty.
You're nice and toasty. We're getting used to it, but it's okay because we keep the house at a good 67 degrees all year round. It's
As a good
fine.
Phoenician does, yes.
Right. But I'm originally from LA area called a town called Agora Hills, and he's from upstate New York, from Rochester. We actually met in Orange County when we were both living there during COVID, and we matched on Hinge. And at first, it's funny because Tyler always says it was love at first sight. But for me, when we matched on Hinge, the first thing he told me was, "This isn't going to work out because I'm allergic to cats." And I had a photo of me and Donut, my cat, on there. And lo and behold, we're here. I also have fell in love with his dog Buddy, and I never liked dogs before, so it's like, you
A
know,
match made in heaven.
yes, exactly. But yeah, we got married in April of this year, April 13th,
Okay.
2024. And so it's been officially 6 months since we've gotten married, and it's gotten so
Congratulations.
much better since all of the wedding planning craziness. And we loved going through that process, but being married is also amazing.
Yeah, how long from engagement until wedding? How long were you engaged for?
So we got engaged in Vail December 29th, 2022, I think it was.
Okay.
So we had a year and a couple of months to do all of the wedding planning, which I felt like was a really good amount of time. And when we first started looking at venues was January of 2023, and we could not believe how
Okay.
up they get.
They go like it's like hotcakes.
Oh my gosh, especially in Phoenix because there's really just two seasons or three
Hmm.
you can do the weddings. It's spring or fall and winter. So I guess three. But yeah, we started looking and we were pretty much had only one or two dates in all of spring for a year and a half almost later.
Did you get the date that you were hoping for?
We didn't really have a specific date in
Oh,
mind,
okay.
really. So we knew we wanted to do it in the springtime of 2024, before it got too hot. So, not really towards the end of May. So, we're looking at April, and there was one Saturday left at the venue, and we snagged that date. We signed
Well
right away.
done.
We're like, yes, we're doing it. We're
Okay,
doing it.
so how did you know that that was the venue? Like, was there a specific venue that you had in mind? Were you wanting to show something off? A lot of people I know in Scottsdale want to show off the desert. Was there something specific about the venue that you chose?
Yeah, so our wedding was technically a destination wedding, even though we both live here. So my
Okay.
family all came from California, and then his family came from East Coast, and I had some family from the East Coast as well. So they're coming here for like a mini vacation slash
Yes.
wedding celebration. So we wanted to make sure that it was in a central-ish location, easy to get to from the airport for people. We wanted to make sure it had a little bit more of a modern vibe because that's kind of how we like the
Mhm.
modern style and mid-century modern. So that was another requirement. Definitely, we wanted to have the ceremony outdoors, so having a good backdrop and being able to see the beautiful scenery of Arizona was super important to us as well. And so many different factors
And it
that went
hit
in,
all of those marks.
hit all of those marks. Yes, like we couldn't be happier with the not only the way that the venue looked, but also the people that we were working with behind the scenes at the venue.
Okay. So, question related to the venue, and then we'll get into the budget piece. But with the guest count, with a lot of people coming from out of town, how many people did you invite and how many people came? I like to know that. I like to know this.
Yes. So we invited 100, and actually, no, we actually ended up inviting 220 people, and we had about 175 people who attended.
Okay.
Initially, our list was 150, but it just kept
Mm.
growing and growing over time. We're like, wait, we need to invite this person. We need to invite that person.
Did you expect so many people to come? No.
I did not at all. Oh my gosh, it is so funny. So this was kind of a part of friction or tension was the guest list. That was the hardest thing. And I'm so glad that we had all these people come and we invite all these people. But at first it's like, who do we invite? Who do we not invite? That I think that was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And we hear things like, oh, you can invite X, Y, and Z people, but they're not going to come. But at the end of the
Yes.
day, they end up coming. And you're
Yes.
like, you have to be really particular with your guest list.
If it has to do with people coming out of town, and I feel like specifically with Scottsdale, I hear that all the time where we're not expecting this many people to show up. And I'm like, well, just you wait, because if there's anything people love, it's an excuse to
Oh my
have a
gosh.
vacation, especially
Yes.
if it's somewhere they're never going to get to go otherwise. So, yes, it's that happens. I hear that happen all the time. It's so, but
All the
it creates a really great party and something that's super special.
It was so fun because at first you're like, I don't know if I should invite this person. I haven't seen them in so long. And then they actually come and you're so happy and grateful that they were there with you on our special day. That's at least how we felt about it. We were so glad. And at the end of the day, that's what we wanted, what was important to us is having all that family and friends there because that's the only day in your entire life that's going to happen. All of
It's so true.
Tyler's family, all of my family, there's some people who will never see each other again, and they had the
Yes.
opportunity to see each other. So at first, that wasn't something that we really thought about, but then after a while, we kind of figured like this is really important having the people that we want and love there with us.
Yes. It's interesting having been a part of so many of these days, how special they are and how it's never like you said, it's never going to happen again. And so that's kind of where now I'll bring in the budget piece. I'm just so curious where we started and where we ended and how you decide what your priorities are together as a couple and what you wanted to provide for yourselves and your closest loved ones, really. Your closest 175 loved ones.
I know, right? I know, it's crazy. So for us, we're very, very fortunate and grateful that our families helped
Mm.
with a portion of the wedding. So we initially knew that, okay, our budget is $50,000.
Okay.
And we went into that, but we didn't really know what that was going to get us. So once we started getting quotes from different venues, we're like, oh my gosh, if we're inviting all of these people, that's not going to cover it
Yeah.
for everything, for the size of wedding that we want and for what we prioritized, like the wedding venue. I mean, I would say everything that we had, all the vendors were priorities for us, but like a photographer. At first, we didn't hire a videographer, but later down the line, we're like, we want to hire a videographer. And we're so glad that we did because when we got that video back, we were
It's so different than photography, but equally important. Yeah.
yes, yes. So for sure, like the top two for us were the venue because for us that venue included food, drinks, tablecloth, chairs. It kind of was a whole package for us and the wedding cake too. And then the photography as well. That we both agreed that those are our two priorities. And then from there we can kind of get quotes for the other vendors and see if we can make it work.
Okay.
Uh, and yeah, I'll
Did
just stop there.
you? Yeah, no, this is great. This is exactly the information that I'm hoping for. So, when did you start to realize DK was not quite matching with what you had envisioned?
Yeah, so it was after we got the venue quotes back, that was when we were like, all right, we need to be more realistic with our budget
Yeah.
here if we want to invite all these people, which is, that was, like I said, a priority for us to have those people there. Then we started getting quotes from all the different vendors and putting a holistic budget of what it would
Okay.
look like together with on a Google sheet and everything. From
Very
there,
organized.
very, very type A of us, but it really helped us, the budget tracking for sure.
Yeah.
And our wedding planner provided that, and it was so awesome of her to
She
do that.
provided a place to like lay out your budget. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
and a checklist and everything.
Can I ask
She
you a
kind of
question?
guided us in the direction of like, these are the things that you should think about.
Okay.
Some of the things we would like signage, we just ordered online from, like, you can get it from
Let's
Etsy or
see.
wherever, really. So those were kind of lower on our priority, but then things like, yeah, like I said, the photo, the video, things like that. But that really helped. And from there, we can kind of pick and choose. All right, based on the quotes that we're getting, what's a realistic number that we can spend and that we can save and aim for? And then from there, we're like, all right, this is what it would be per month. This is what,
Okay.
realistically trying to build it into our own monthly budget. At the
That
end
was
of the
that's so interesting. I think that's interesting to hear like breaking it up into like a monthly
Yeah,
budget.
just to see if we could, at the end of the day, when the bill comes and the wedding's done, can we actually pay for all of
Yeah.
this by that point? So kind of working backwards like that. And we both work full time, so, we were able to save between for that year and a half almost. So that kind of helped us get there.
Yeah.
We didn't want to we didn't really want to go into our marriage in debt, and I know a lot of people
Mhm.
do, and it's like, for us, we just didn't want to do that. We want to make sure that when we're there, we're really happy about this decisions that we made, and we're not like suffering in the beginning of our
Yes.
marriage
Yes.
for it, if that
You
makes
want to
sense.
start off on a good
So,
foot and like
yeah,
in a
yeah,
great place together
for sure.
financially and just in general. Nobody's having regrets about anything.
Yeah, and like that's the advice I would give to my friends is like, don't go into your wedding in debt. Like, put a budget and
Mm,
plan ahead so you know what you can afford and what you can't afford. And if you do want to like put on a 0% interest card, then you
yes.
know that you can pay that off in 12 months or whatever.
And I've heard too of like opening up a couple, like not to go into debt, but if you are going to be paying it off, you may as well be earning some points and opening up
Oh my
some
God.
credit cards with some sweet bonuses in the meantime, especially for travel for your honeymoon.
But yes, we are all about the points. So that was a big thing for
Folks out
us.
for the points.
We love it. We love it. So I like took this whole course online about credit card points so I can prepare for this wedding planning. It's
Scratch the
so
whole
funny.
wedding. We got to talk about this.
So funny. But we strategically open credit cards
Okay.
every few months so we can help pay for our honeymoon. That was a big thing. That's also a priority for us, is we wanted to make sure not only that we had a great wedding, but also a honeymoon, because that's something that people don't necessarily think about budgeting for. Maybe they don't want to take it right after the wedding.
Sure.
Maybe they want to take it a year later, but you can kind
When
of
did
think
you take
about,
yours?
we did ours just a few days after the wedding. So our wedding was on a Saturday, and then we went on our honeymoon on a Tuesday.
For
And
a couple days to recover.
it was, yes, a couple days to recover. It was the best trip ever.
Where
We
did you
loved
go?
it. We went to Dubai and Maldives, and it was awesome. And we had a honeymoon fund as part of our registry, which also helped pay for like the activities that we wanted to do, the meals, the
Could
food.
people buy you like a dinner or
Yes,
okay.
exactly. So that helped us, and we're so excited. Like, I remember what people got us, even if they donated to our honeymoon fund.
Oh.
I know exactly what the gifts were.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
But yeah, credit card points, huge, huge.
What percentage of those points would you say paid for? Like, what percentage of your trip was paid for by credit card points?
We paid for our flights, most of our flights, because some of the flights, which are like, going from a small island to another island, or
Okay.
small
Yes.
trips, we paid for with cash. But most of our flights, all of the flights besides that were on points, and then our hotel also on points.
Okay.
So depending on like what bonuses they have going on, I would say I would recommend to all brides and grooms to look into opening credit card points. Obviously, if you can pay them off every
Yes,
month.
yes.
Otherwise, no,
There's
don't
a
do that.
whole strategy behind it. If you
Yes.
Google it, you can find it.
Yes. Yes. Totally.
I am hoping to earn the companion pass through Southwest
Oh
this
my gosh,
next year.
it's
For
so
yeah,
good.
yeah. I'm
So
like,
good.
so good. It's so valuable. Okay,
Yeah.
so back to the wedding. So, which did you book first? Did you book venue or planner first? And what was that process?
So some venues will only work with certain planners. So for us, we actually did book the venue first because the planner that we were working with, I started reaching out to planners initially first, actually. I should say that
Before venues. Okay.
before venues. I started reaching out to everyone before we booked anything just to get feelers out of what the prices were and what we can expect. But then when we decided on the venue, the planner that we wanted to work with wasn't a what is it? Wasn't on like the recommended
Preferred,
the
a
preferred
preferred
list.
vendor. Okay.
So we were able to work with the venue and get them approved to work with us for the venue because we got along really well, the planner and I, and we really liked the venue. So we wanted to kind of build that relationship, help build that relationship between them as well. And I'm so glad because we're happy with the way things that turned
Mhm.
out. And I hope that they would say the same. So we did venue first and then planner, but I think it depends on the venue you
Yes.
choose for
Yeah,
sure.
some venues just require a planner in general, and then some require a specific planner from a list. So I love that you were able to kind of build that relationship for the planner and the
Yes,
venue, because I think sometimes there's people that have don't have the opportunity, and they should have the opportunity because they're lovely people and lovely businesses.
I agree.
So once the planner came in, like, did come she provided that way to budget? Did she help guide you in certain directions when you said stylistically what you were hoping for? Did she have recommendations for you?
Yeah, so I, like many other brides, I'm sure, have gone on Pinterest and have their vision boards and everything. I provided her with what I had ideas of what we wanted, Tyler and I, and she created an entire packet of what the cocktail would look like, the reception, the ceremony, all that stuff. And I will say that because we had a Persian American wedding, my background is Persian and he's American. Our ceremony was a Persian ceremony with
Okay.
blends of American traditions,
How
and they
beautiful.
nailed it. You know, I just showed them photos of what we wanted and they helped put everything together really well. So she had a really good vision for everything, made everything, all of my ideas come to life, which was so beautiful.
Did
Yes.
she have ideas that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have thought of?
Totally. I mean, there were things that she thought of, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And even with the, like, going back to the budgeting, I would run things back to her and be like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And she's like, actually, yeah, that seems right. Or no, this doesn't. So a lot of her experience in the industry and just understanding just from other weddings what brides would go through and what their process was, that was so that was so valuable for her to tell me all of those things and kind
Yeah.
of guide me in those ways.
I was just going to say, it seems like she acted as your guide throughout
It
this
is. Yes,
process. I
totally.
have not navigated these waters before. Please guide me. Tell me things I don't know.
Exactly. Like I have some ideas from when my girlfriends got married, but you don't really get into those details of wedding planning with a lot of your girlfriends, at least, not to that extent as a wedding planner you would with your wedding planner.
Yes, I feel like you form a very close relationship with your planner throughout the process. And I
Yes.
know, like, I always feel sad saying goodbye to my couples, but I can't imagine being a planner, being like on the wedding day. I've been a part of, I had one bride once, and she said, I'm so sad it's over now just because I'm so like I want to still hang out with you guys.
I know, I know. Ugh. I think about her every once in a while. I'm like, "Oh, so funny. I would
Yeah.
do this one. I remember when I did this with her, but yeah.
It's such a sweet time. I feel like it's such a short time in your life, and to have some people that come alongside you for that is so sweet and so special, even as professionals, you know. Okay, so you said the other important piece for you was photography. So how did you wait until your planner gave you recommendations? Had you already started perusing, I don't know, say the Instagram, or like tell me about that process?
Yeah, we started looking, I think before the planner. We started looking, but when we got the list of recommended vendors that the planner works with, I believe that the photographer was also on that list. But
So it
for
kind
us,
of confirmed like, oh,
yeah,
this is a
yeah.
good choice. Okay.
Exactly, exactly. For us, and this was the process with a lot of our vendors, we would interview them, and it really, we just went off the feeling that we had with
Mm.
the vendor. Like, if we felt good about that and we connected on a level and we knew that we can trust them, then we're like, all right, this is them. There was some that immediately we knew, or like, because Tyler kind of gave me the reins to do those types of calls and
Okay.
interviews with most of the vendors except for the DJ. We
Was
had a couple.
he like, no, I need to be in on
Yes,
this? Okay.
yes, yes. You have to be
I need
one
to
of
come
them at
along to
least.
this party.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he immediately after that call, he's like, "All right, we're hiring him. This is great." And
I love
that's like
that.
the same feeling that we had for most, I would say all of the vendors that we decided to have on our team that day.
How many, so if photography was important and also DJ, how many people did you reach out to? How many people did you actually, and then how many people did you actually talk to? That's something I'm genuinely curious
Yeah.
about.
I reached out to maybe on average 4 people
Okay.
per vendor, like per vendor. And then we probably talked to between 2 and 3 of them.
Okay.
So
And
that
you
gave us,
felt like you knew pretty quickly this is
yes,
the
yeah.
right person for us.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah.
that you went with your gut because I think that's so. Did you feel, just genuinely curious, like on edge going into any of the meetings, or were you excited? Like, how did you feel going into chatting with potential vendors?
Some of them, I mean, you research some vendors and some of them are pretty transparent with their pricing and packaging online, but others might not be. They might have
Hmm.
a range depending on what you want. So if I went into the call and I knew exactly what I ask, like, let's say I got a quote from one vendor and I want to compare apples to apples. So I say, give me this, this, and this, and exactly the same, then I wouldn't feel as nervous going into those calls. But if I went in and I felt like completely blindsided by what the range is or the budget, and I'm like, oh my God, I just got on this call and it's way above our budget,
Hmm.
or like, we can't afford this, but I really love it, then I felt a little bit like discouraged, I guess, or at
Yeah,
the end of the call, I was like, man, maybe I should not expect this and that or whatever. But yeah, it just depended.
it depended. So I feel like the transparency with the vendors and pricing, like even if you had some sort of frame of reference for what to
Yes,
expect, that would put you a little bit at
for
ease.
sure. Because
Okay.
then you're not also wasting their time by getting on a
Hmm.
call and not knowing, and then you're not wasting your time either. If you're not a good fit because of where the pricing starts, then that's fine. Whatever, go to look for someone else. It's
Hmm.
That's something that I realized, like, maybe just doing my due diligence a little bit beforehand and having a list of questions. What's the budget? What does that exactly include? Because someone's price might include something completely different than someone else's price, and
Hmm.
that's why it's more expensive or less expensive, or it's just depending on the value that you're seeing and the value they bring, and
Hmm.
making sure that you're comparing the apples to apples packages and everything.
Yeah, and I feel like within the wedding industry, there's so many small businesses, so everybody's running their business so differently.
Yes,
And two, for me, like I know when I'm making a big financial decision, I become very easily overwhelmed. And that's just one financial decision. I feel like and I don't feel, I know the weddings are made up of multiple large financial decisions. I feel for, engaged couples who are entering this process and are like, wait, what? It costs this much? Or wait, this one costs this much? Like, it's kind of all over the board. And I like to tell
it
people,
is.
like, whatever you're looking for, you can find it, but it also may not be the best option either, depending on the quality that you want too. So it doesn't always. So, yeah. And when you're coming into it, having never been married before or having never planned a wedding, it's kind of overwhelming. Not kind of. I feel like it's very overwhelming. It's just a lot of decisions that you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting it to cost this much, and I wasn't expecting it to have this many options, really.
Yes.
So I feel
Yeah.
like that's too also where the planner. So, question: does, like, people that maybe didn't have their pricing, I'm curious if the planner knew, like, did she have any more insight into what things cost?
Yes, so she did, which was super helpful because then that gave us a frame of reference of, oh, should we even reach out to this person?
Mm.
Does it make sense with our budget, or should we just try and look for someone else? And so she would guide us in the direction of, okay, this is what the pricing is. And she would help reach out to people and to vendors as well. So she would kind of act as the liaison between us,
Mm.
which was really nice, especially because we're both working jobs and a lot of times we just can't get around to even doing that. So the fact that she was able to, one, get the updated pricing because maybe they haven't worked together and pricing has changed, but two, also just manage that relationship for us. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, I feel like it shoulders a lot of the weight that, I mean, just even reaching out to people is a
Yes.
lot of work.
Yeah. Yes. Most of the time though, she knew. She was like, "Oh yeah, I worked with them recently. This is what the range is." And a lot of vendors have ranges because it just depends on what you really want out of it because people can you can always custom create or they can custom create packages for you. So if you really want to work with someone, you're like, all right, this is what their base package includes and this is the price, but maybe I don't want that, or maybe I want to add one thing so they can customize the packages based on your needs. And a lot of vendors are starting to do that. I've seen photography, videography, whatever it is, they'll all have something
Yes.
similar to that.
Yes, I mean, that's what I have transitioned into doing as well as creating custom collections. Before I had just a set. But
Hmm.
like you said, every wedding day is different. And some, like, I used to require an engagement session, and not everybody, a lot of my couples come in from out of town, and sometimes they can't make it work for a week, so that, they're flying in for an engagement session. I've gone to other states for engagement sessions. So all of it is so different. Everybody needs something else, something different. And so I think that is probably the hesitation when people, when they're not wanting to send pricing right away, is like,
Yes.
well, what is it that you want? Because that totally changes what the collection will look like.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
that's
I think.
something I didn't know. I didn't realize that that's how the wedding planning is, that you can customize these things. So if I knew that before going into it, I would have been like, all right, Tyler, let's sit down. Let's say these are how many hours we want. We want X amount of shooters. We want a candid photography shooter. We want, video, and we want a drone footage. Like we didn't
Yes.
know exactly what we wanted. So we were kind of just figuring it out
And I would also
as
be
we
like, I was like, you don't know what you don't
Yeah,
know, and you don't, like, you're not
exactly.
supposed to know. I think that is part
Yeah.
of our job as vendors, is to educate, and in like a very gentle way, like what you might do need and what you don't need, and all of that.
Yes.
Okay, another piece I want to hit on is, because I feel like this has been a hot topic in the industry lately, is florals. Will you
Yeah.
talk to me about
Yes.
florals, the budget, how that kind of worked out what you wanted? Like you said, you're scrolling through Pinterest and you see these beautiful things, and you're like, oh, this will just come together so easy.
Florals made me floored. I will say that. I was floored by the florals. Okay.
We need that
It
on
was
a t-shirt.
crazy. Yes. So obviously I knew that florals were expensive based on what all of my recent girlfriends who got engaged and
Mhm.
married were telling me, but I didn't really know. And Tyler didn't really know until we started getting the quotes. And the way that you do it is you send inspiration photos of what you'd like, and then they put a proposal together with how many of each item, the size of each item, things
Okay.
like that. But, my initial idea was let's do florals. Our budget was 10,000 for florals,
Okay.
which sounds like a lot, okay? But we did some cool things for our wedding. We had like a ceiling, we had disco balls with flowers on the ceiling, which was
Ooh.
really cool. We had rose petals. A lot of the stuff, I think some of the florals we actually ended up getting from Costco too, which saved us a bit, like the rose petals, but we were shocked at the price of florals. But at the end of the day, we really like the smell of the flowers and the roses, and having fresh flowers was important to us. A lot of my friends have been doing dried florals lately too, which I went to a wedding a couple weeks ago. They did dried florals and it looked amazing. It's
Wow.
like I could not believe what it looked like. So that's an alternative I heard that people are using now more and
I
more.
wonder if that's something that's coming up in the industry because I mean I
Yes.
think even the florists are like we
Yeah,
can't do anything. We don't have control over the cost of what flowers cost, you know.
exactly.
So and then on top of that, having to run a business. I have a friend who was a florist, and I worked with her for one day, and I was like, "Oh, I could never."
Yes, yes.
It's it's just a lot, and you know, photography. I'm like, I have my suitcase and I have my bag of flat lay things and I walk in and it's 8 hours and it's just it feels a lot more like organized and then I pack everything up and I come home and not with florals like
Yeah,
they're all morning setting everything up and then you're back at 1 a.m. to strike and every wedding there's a different number of tables and everybody wants a different type of floral. I was like, oh wow, I just really admire what florists do and I
yes.
just feel like within the wedding industry, there's been a lot of chatter about how much flowers cost. So I'm curious. Yeah. So you were happy with how everything turned out? Did it match? Did you stay within budget for floral?
We went a little higher than our budget, but maybe I would say 20% higher, which I guess is
Okay.
kind of a lot, but it's because of the ceiling installment that we had,
Okay.
which
For the
that was
reception.
yeah, for the reception. We didn't want to get rid of that because that was like a big piece for us, is walking in and having that wow factor of wow, oh my gosh, there's these cool disco balls and baby's breath on the
Yeah.
ceiling, which we really loved it. And my mom was helping me a lot with, should we do this? Should we not? She's like, just go for it. You're going to be so happy with it. And we could not believe how cool it turned out. It blew us out of the water. So
I love
totally
that.
get why it's expensive. It's not just the flowers you're paying for, but the installation and setting everything up, and just like what you said, transporting the flowers, making sure everything looks good. Then you have to think about the vases or the vase and setting all that up. So we definitely were able to save some cost by doing our cocktail hour flowers ourselves. So we
Okay.
got baby's breath from like Trader Joe's or Costco, and I had some of the bridesmaids help with that. And like I said, the rose petals below our it's called a sofra act for Persian weddings. It goes on the
Mm.
rose petals underneath our glass table, and down the aisle. So there's little ways that we were able to save and find ways to save money there. But overall, we were so happy with what we were able to do with that budget, because it was a lot at the end of the day. We had a lot of people, and the more people you have to think about, you have more flowers because you have
Yes.
to have flour on the tables. And we also were able to offset some of the cost of the florals by having candles. So we had part of that budget was going towards like hurricane glass candles with the
Mm.
floating candles, and like a set of three candles in the table. So we were kind of mixing and matching florals and candles.
Candles.
And then you think about it, all right, I bought all of these candles. You can resell those on Facebook
Hmm.
Marketplace to another bride and kind of recoup some of that money.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, out of all of the guests that you have and the tables and the wow factor that you get from it, it's like that's a huge part of the wedding.
And I'm sure, everybody walking into that reception, like you said, that wow factor, you don't,
Yes.
there's not many times in your life where you get to provide that for people. And so, what a unique opportunity to do something really awesome and something really memorable for the people you love the most, you know? I think
Yes, it
that
was
is
great.
really neat.
It was amazing.
So, what about the DJ? So, I feel like that was a really important piece to Tyler. So, I would love to hear how you all made that decision and a little bit more about the entertainment.
Yes, so DJ was definitely important to us. We had songs picked out we wanted played and everything. We had a whole playlist for each of the events, but
Okay.
our DJ was so good that incorporating other songs that would get everyone excited and dancing, that we knew that that was going to be the case with him, and that's why we chose him. When we had that interview with him, I mean, he was very transparent about the package cost and what's included and the pricing, which I really liked.
Okay.
Going on the website, and there was a handful of the vendors that had this on their website where this is what my package is, this is exactly what it includes, and so it's really easy to know exactly what's included. And then we decided on having like sparklers for hours, but ended up not being able to because the venue is indoor. So we were able to swap out something that we had in our contract with something else. And we love the fact that it was easy to work with him, and
He
he
was
was very
flexible.
responsive and organized and easy to communicate, and just made us feel at ease with
Mhm.
the whole process, like having a really clear music planning document that we can work off of in real time, like on a Google Doc, and going having a couple meetings before the wedding where we can walk through everything and guide us through anything else that we should be thinking of. So I really liked that. I felt like he was a huge part of the wedding planning
Mm.
along with the event planner. Like they really needed to be working well together for logistical pieces. And I felt like he was really well involved in the whole day.
I love that. I think DJs can get a bad rap. We're just, putting on a Spotify playlist, and it's so
Yeah.
far from what they
No,
do. They play such an integral piece in how the feel and the vibe of the reception, how it goes. So I love that he was able to play such an important piece leading up and having those meetings beforehand. Did you have many meetings with other vendors beforehand, or was that the primary one?
there were a couple of vendors that we met with beforehand to kind of go through what we wanted, like photography, put together a Pinterest board for inspiration. And then obviously we had our engagement shoot with the photographer, so we were able to understand what our style was. So that was kind of an in-person meeting, I would say, for the
Yes.
photographer. But yes, many, many meetings with our event planner, and those few meetings with the DJ and a couple of the other vendors, just constant communication on via email or with the venue in person, meeting and doing like walkthroughs, things like that. So it was a lot. I feel like we got a lot out of it because we were able to communicate with them easily because we were just constantly kept that communication open for us. So we knew that we could trust our vendors and reach out to them whenever we wanted.
I think that trust is a huge piece. It's again, I was saying it's so overwhelming to plan a wedding, and so I love to say, I think especially locally within, Scottsdale at least, everybody that's in the wedding industry has a really big heart. And so I hope that when new couples are coming and meeting all of these vendors for the first time, I think there's almost like a stigma, like anything that's a wedding, it's just automatically more expensive and people just want to take our money. And when in reality,
Yes,
there's people are running businesses and have lives to lead, and also they genuinely care. And I
exactly.
know, and I can speak from experience that people just genuinely care about you having the best wedding day ever. And whatever that means to you and Tyler is like, we want that to happen and we want to make that a reality. So I love hearing that you felt that trust from your vendor team, because I think that is so critical
Yes.
when planning and then how things go the day of. Okay, so you started, your initial budget was 50K. What
Yes.
what did we actually spend on the wedding?
And I mean, okay, so yeah, 50K. That was expecting maybe 150 people, and that's only looking at the venue.
Okay.
We ended up with 175 people, so that's going to go up from just the venue plus all of the other vendor costs. We were about we were at 120,000. That's not including anything for the honeymoon,
Okay.
and that's not including the rehearsal dinner. It was a lot higher than what we initially thought.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Maybe like triple what we thought. But like we wouldn't change a thing.
Mm.
Everything we got out of it was it like blew us out of the water, and what we have memories and photos and video and everything, those are like what we consider heirlooms. I love that photographers and videographers consider them heirlooms because that's really what it is. And we're so glad, and we kind of extended our budget in certain things like adding a video last minute, which we didn't think we were going to have. We were so glad we did that because the team made us laugh and feel like movie stars the whole day.
I love that.
Same with the photo
VIPs,
team.
baby,
Like
VIPs.
yeah, that's how we felt. And the fact that like Tyler's a very stoic person, and the fact that he came up to me after and said that, he's like,
Oh,
I love being on the video, He
oh,
was it was so good.
I
So
love that.
yeah, it was just, obviously you don't have to spend that much for your wedding, but with the amount of guests that we added on afterwards and we initially didn't budget for, and adding on vendors, and also taking into consideration for us, like my mom really wanted to do gift bags
Mm.
and little things like that, they start adding up. But for us, the priorities, like I said, venue, photographer, those are the two, and DJ, we're like, those are non-negotiables.
Yeah.
So if those are above our budget a little bit, that's fine.
Yes, absolutely. I think and figuring out where there is room to make those things, make those adjustments. And like you said, I think you said Trader Joe's for some florals,
Yes.
or you
Yeah.
added some things in. But overall, to have that experience for yourself and for your guests, that is, I mean, it just is a once in a lifetime type of situation. How was, how did you feel like the morning of the wedding?
My gosh, I was like, I got chills right now. Just what you said. Yes, I felt so calm, nervous, but at the same time calm. Obviously, like the night before, I didn't go crazy. I was in my hotel room alone. We did the whole sleeping in separate rooms thing. And then I woke up. I just, had coffee, brushed my teeth, got ready, and people, I think I got up at like 7:30. People, hair and makeup team was there by 8 a.m., right away. And I was
They're
so
there, ready to go.
excited. Yes. Yes, which they were also amazing, by the way. I couldn't have asked like for a better hair and makeup team. So yeah, it was just all my girlfriends, my bridesmaids, my mom, my mother-in-law all started trickling in, and it wasn't a stressful morning. We had a lot of time to just relax and chill, and everyone had their dresses up and already steamed, ready to go, and it was great. We had breakfast, just had a great girls' day.
Kind of like the calm before the storm. It's like
Yes,
there's
yes.
this, I don't know what the musical term is, it like crescendo?
Yes, yeah, I get what you're
Slowly
saying.
building of
Yes.
like anticipation. And
Oh, yes.
did it, was there a point where it just like turned on and it was like go time?
The point that it turned on was when all the photographers and videographers all arrived,
Show up with
everything.
all their gear.
Yes. Well, it was crazy. We were initially only expecting maybe like two or three people from each team, but there were so many more that came because of how much bigger our wedding got
Yeah.
that we're like, oh my gosh, there's like 10
It's like
people.
an entourage of people with cameras.
Yes, yes. That's when I was like, all right, we're going now.
It's
We're
game
doing
time.
this. Yes. Yeah, it was so fun. It was like it was the best day of my life for sure. And I asked Tyler, was it the best day of your life? He said it was definitely the best day.
I love that. Do you have like a core memory where like this moment is going to live with me forever from that day? I bet there's many,
Definitely.
but
So many, so many. So there's two that I can think of. The first one was my first look with my father, my dad. He cried, he bawled his eyes out, and I like I've only seen him cry maybe one or two
mm,
times before that. So for that to happen, I was like so emotional. I will never forget that in my life. And then also my first look with Tyler as well was so sweet. He was just totally different reaction. For him, he was so excited. He screamed, not screamed, like, "Oh my God."
he's like not. You said he's very stoic, so not usually
Yes,
very
for him
animated.
it was like a big deal. Yes, so animated, and that was also just so special. Of course, when we got married and exchanged the rings and walked down the aisle for the first time as husband and wife, I'll never forget those memories either.
I love. And then when you got so cut to after the wedding, getting back photo and video, were there
Yes.
was there like what was that experience like?
Oh my gosh. So I was actually on a work trip when I got my like the photos back and I was so excited. I immediately texted Tyler. I was like, "Oh my God, look." And I was already downloading all of them. So happy. It was
Your
like
phone just can't even handle the storage
yes,
size.
it couldn't even handle it. I think that was like the first sneak peek, and then you have the second round, same exact thing. I was so excited. So those were so fun, and everyone, all the family and friends kept asking me, send me the photos. Everyone wants to see it because you
Yes.
never really expect people wanting to see your wedding photos. I felt like it was just us two and maybe our immediate family, but everyone, all my friends, family,
Really?
so excited to see them and asking. And then yeah, the video too, we could not believe we sat there together and watched it for the first time and we loved it. It was so good. And yeah, we actually ended up buying more chapters for videos.
Oh, really?
Just maybe last month we reached out and we're like, actually, can we add on because we want more, you know?
I mean, I think it's a beautiful way to relive that day forever.
Yes.
As far as photos go, too, it's so interesting because I mean, it was a maybe last year sometime. My son popped up on our this little day bed right back there, and he started flipping through our wedding album, and we were talking about all the people that were there, and like, oh, then we were talking about there's a photo of us doing the cha cha slide, and he started doing the cha cha slide, and
So cute.
I for me, it was just a really beautiful reminder of why I do what I do. I want your children to be looking at your album one day and talking about
Yes.
all the people that were there celebrating you too, and how much everyone loves you and how celebrated you were. And also, like funny things like what was popular then, like the cha cha slide.
Yes, I know. It's funny you mentioned that because I remember maybe just a month before our wedding or whenever I went to go visit my family in LA before our big day was we're just watching my parents' wedding video and same with Tyler's parents, sending photos of their wedding and it's just fun to commemorate that and look back. So I hope that one day when we have our babies, our kids that are getting married, they can do the same thing with our wedding video and photos and
It's so
yeah,
beautiful. You're starting a legacy, and it's such a
exactly.
beautiful way to commemorate that.
Yes. Much better quality than in the 80s,
Yeah,
I will say.
we hope it only continues to improve.
Yeah, right?
Okay, one more question. If there were, say, I don't know, people getting married what piece of advice would you have for them as they start out planning their wedding?
Don't stress. I know that's like
That's so easy. Love that piece of advice.
yes, don't stress. I mean, everything is going to be okay in the end. I was so anxious through the whole process, but now looking back at it, I wish I just slowed down a little bit and enjoyed the process a little bit more because it goes by so fast. And I know this is so cliche. People say this all the time, but it goes by in the blink of an eye. And you're
Truly.
never going to get that time again. So cherish it, enjoy it. Don't stress so much and actually try and like change your mindset to, oh my gosh, I have to do this and this and this for the wedding planning. Be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I get to do this. And it's the only time in my life I can do this. And like, if you are in that mindset or so stressed, then just try and change it because you will look back and you can't believe how quickly it goes by.
So fast. It's so, I feel like I will chat with a couple and I'm like, it will be here, I promise you, before you know it. A year and a half goes by very quickly. You'd be
Yes.
surprised.
And for the brides, my one advice is when you're walking down the aisle, go as slow as you can because I was going so fast. I look back at my video, I'm like, what was I doing?
You're sprinting down the aisle. That's what you were doing.
Wait,
I
get
couldn't get
married
there
right
fast
now.
enough. I've been
Yeah,
planning a year and a half for this. I gotta get married. It's so
exactly.
funny. I appreciate that as a photographer because
Yes.
I know like planners, they'll be like, you need to walk like so much slower than you even
Yes.
think because people just automatically like sprint.
Yes.
When
That
I
was
got
me.
married, we didn't do a first look, and actually that's one of my biggest regrets from my wedding day is not doing one because I struggle with having a lot of eyes on me. I'm like, there's a reason I put myself behind the camera.
Yeah.
I was like, funny how that ended up. But there was this, supposed to have this beautiful moment with my husband at the end of the aisle, and I just became overwhelmed with emotion and I couldn't handle it, and then all these eyes on me. And so instead of like enjoying this moment with my husband and walking down the aisle slowly, I started waving to people.
No way. My
I was like,
gosh.
Aunt Karen, it's so good to see you. And I was like, oh, I should have. In that moment, I was like, should have done the first look. Should have done it.
So funny. That is so funny.
Yeah. So it goes by in the blink of an eye, and
Yes.
it's so wild. Thank you
Yes, of
for
course. This
being
was
willing
so
to
fun.
chat with me and providing like the most valuable insight for, I hope, future brides who are planning their weddings and as they go about making those decisions. It's a lot. So I really appreciate your time and your insight and your kind heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Of course. Anytime. I'm so happy to be here and have a chance to share my experience. And I hope this can help at least one person while they're planning.
I hope so too. I hope so too. Thank you so much, Lily.
Of course.